Yo, what's going on, fellas? Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Listen, before you start skipping around and trying to find different settings and all that, let me explain something first. I'm going to be explaining everything that is relevant for controller or console players in this video. So we're going to be talking about linear, exponential, controller binds, non-claw binds, 4-paddle, 2-paddle binds, sensitivities, and much more. And if you find anything in this video helpful, definitely hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel out way more than you'd think. Let's go and hop right on into it. Alrighty, so diving right into the settings, so we're going to start on the video tab. Now, if you are on console, you should have a very important setting. It's called motion blur. I don't have it showing up here since I'm on PC and I'm on performance mode, so it doesn't show up for me. But if you do have motion blur on your console, make sure you turn it off. It hinders your FPS and it also gives you a little bit of input delay. But if you're on PC, make sure you're on full screen, make sure on 1920 by 1080, and also make sure you're capping your frame rate at whatever your monitor's hertz are. So I have a 240 hertz monitor, so I keep my FPS at 240 hertz in game. Now we're on to the colorblind settings. So I don't use colorblind settings. Now it's totally personal preference. If you want to see better through zone, definitely use tritanope 10 with about 80% brightness. I do recommend this if you want to see better through zone, but most of the time I'm in creative, so I usually just keep it off. But if I do play arena or something, I might throw that on. It just depends. It's all personal preference. Now let's talk about these graphics settings. So if you're on a lower end PC and you want to get a little bit more frames, you can come right here and turn this down to about 90%. This is your 3D resolution. If you hit apply, your game will look a little bit more pixelated, but you should get a little bit better frames. Make sure you have the rest of these all the way on low or off. These two settings are new to this season, and what it is high resolution textures, which will make your game look a little bit better when it comes to like the grass looking a little bit more like grass and the rocks looking a little bit more defined. It's just another thing that'll hinder your FPS. Make sure you have VSync off. This will give you tons of input delay. VSync is a little tool that tries to reduce screen tearing, but if you have FreeSync or G-Sync on your PC, and make sure that you have this off, and you shouldn't be playing with it anyways. It'll just give you a ton of input delay, and it doesn't even help that much with screen tearing. Now, show FPS, this is just personal preference. Obviously, I keep mine on. And rendering mode. So if you're on PC, no matter what PC it is, you will automatically get way higher FPS and better input delay if you're on performance mode. I highly recommend it. But if you are on an AMD GPU and you're not really looking to get the very best performance, the best gameplay experience, I would recommend DirectX 12. Now, moving right on into the game tab. So matchmaking region, make sure that whichever you're on, so if you're on NA East or NA West, or if you're on Oceania, whatever it is, never put it on auto, because sometimes I've experienced where I'll load into a game and for whatever reason, I'll be on West servers and I'll have like 100 to 200 ping. So with putting it on your exact server, that'll just make sure it doesn't load you into any different servers or give you higher ping when it's totally unnecessary. Now, toggle sprint, you obviously want this on. Now, this isn't the new tactical sprint like I'm doing here. This is just to make sure that you are always sprinting just like this in game, instead of doing the slow walk and having to press a sprint bind to actually sprint. You'll just automatically sprint. Now, auto open doors, this one is personal preference. The only reason why I would say to keep it on is if you ever mess up an edit. So if you're going for this edit here, but you accidentally edit a door, you'll automatically just keep walking through. That's the only reason why I'd say to keep it on, but I personally don't. I usually don't mess up these edits whenever I'm going like this, so I just keep mine off. Now, mantle activation, this is a big one. This is new to this season as well, and at first I thought hold forward was the better option, but that is totally not true. Hold forward makes it to where it'll automatically mantle for you when you're not actually wanting to. So all you have to do is hold your stick forward, just like I'm doing in the top right. For example, if you're trying to get a shot through a window and you want to jump to avoid cover and you automatically mantle over the wall when you didn't mean to, that could definitely get you killed, and it's actually happened to me a couple times. So I keep mine on hold jump, and what this does is it gives a little prompt up in the top right to double jump. So you just have to double jump to mantle, and it makes it a lot easier for you not to mess up whenever you're actually trying to mantle. Now, hold to swap pickup, I highly recommend you keep this off. Now, I'll tell you why. What the setting does is if you turn it on, you can switch the weapon exactly where the slot is with the weapon you have here. And that sounds pretty useful, right? But no, the reason why you want this off is because there's a little bit of a delay whenever you're going to pick up weapons. So if you're flying in on a roof and you're trying to get the gun first, you will always get it last before somebody else that has this setting off, because they won't have that little delay that it takes to pick up a weapon, even if you're not holding to swap it. Now, this is with hold to swap pickup off, and it's probably super hard to tell the delay on the video from when it's on, but I promise you in game, you can definitely notice, so make sure you have it off. And the next setting is toggle targeting. What this does is if you press your aim button once, it will toggle on, so you have to press it again to toggle it off. I recommend you keep it off. Nobody ever plays with this on. It's just kind of annoying. You can aim whenever you want to, just hold and let go. It's not a big one, but yeah, definitely have that one off. Now, mark danger when targeting. This will just double ping and mark danger whenever you're aiming down your weapon. And auto pick up weapons, this one can get super annoying because if you run through a pile of loot that you don't want to pick up, it'll just automatically pick up those weapons or heals, so definitely keep this off. Now, preferred item slots, this one is huge. This will allow you to keep certain slots for certain items in the game. So whenever I pull out my shotgun, all I have to do is if I want to get to my AR is press one button, rather than if I had an SMG and an AR, I don't have to press 2 buttons going from my shotgun to my AR. That's just the way I have it set up. So whenever you go to pick up the AR, it'll automatically pick up in whichever weapon slot you want it to. And same thing goes for your shotgun and your SMG and consumables. And if you want yours like mine, just go ahead and copy the settings that I have here. Auto sort consumables to the right. This one doesn't matter much since you have the preferred item slots on, so I keep mine on just in case. Reset building choice, you definitely want this on, and this is what happens whenever it's off. So for example, if I go to place a stair and then I put my builds away and I wanted to edit this wall, but I'm too far away, right? So I have to pull my map out. It'll automatically try to get me to edit the stair instead of the wall. So I have to press the wall bind to actually be able to get this edit off. So turning reset building on, right when I pull out my builds, it automatically goes to my wall to where I can edit it or I can reset it. So for example, if there's somebody right here, I can automatically reset that by just pulling out my builds because it's already on the wall. Now, disable pre-edit option, this one's a big one. This is one that a lot of players actually make mistakes with. If you have it on, you can accidentally pre-edit your wall. So now my walls are this, and if I want to place them anywhere, this is what they would place as, and I would have to reset them to get them back to normal. So keeping it on will make it to where you cannot pre-edit any builds, so you can't make any mistakes whenever you're going through edits, just like this. Now, turbo building, of course, you want on, and confirm on release. This is a big one. So I always have confirm on release almost as a backup, but what it does is whenever you edit, select your edit and let go, it'll confirm it on the release. But I still confirm all of my edits just because it is faster and it is kind of a safety guard. So if I accidentally mess up an edit and I don't confirm it, it'll automatically edit it for me. So I keep it on, but I recommend you still confirm all of your edits. Now, contextual tips, just keep those off. In review, of course, you want this off. Turbo delete and creative, I have on. What it does, you can just turbo delete builds if you want, if you're making a map. So that doesn't matter much. Now, Nvidia highlights, make sure you have this off. If you have an Nvidia graphics card, it's just going to automatically record, giving you more input delay, less FPS. Make sure you have that off. Peripheral lighting, same thing, keep it off. Tap to search / interact. This one is awesome because whenever you press your Y button or X button, whatever it is, to interact, to open a chest, you can just press that button once instead of having to press and hold it. So definitely turn that on. Now, report performance stats, this is a personal preference one. Yeah, you can keep them on if you want. Now, the replays tab, make sure you have all of these off. This does the same thing as the Nvidia highlights, except in game. So this records while you're playing a game, whether you're in creative or in an actual game, wherever it is. Keep these off if you want better performance. Now, HUD options, this one is personal preference. You can keep all of these off or on whether you want, but these are what mine are if you want to copy them. Now, moving on to the gyro or touch settings. So I don't use these. Now, I do have a PS5 controller that I actually could use these settings with, but I highly recommend that you don't use these settings, even if you have a PS4 or PS5 controller. I recommend you just keep the normal sensitivity going, just like how everybody else does. But if you do want a full video on the best settings of all these, I can break them down and kind of explain them to you guys. So just let me know in the comments and I'll do that for you. Now, these are my keyboard and mouse settings. I don't really play keyboard and mouse that much, but this is what I keep it at just in case if I do kind of want to mess around with it. So now moving on to the controller settings. So we're going to start at the top. Auto run, of course, you want on 100%. Build immediately, yes, keep it on. Now, edit hold time, if you're still pressing B to edit your builds, you are putting yourself at a big disadvantage. Later in the video, we're going to go over some binds that you can use if you don't have paddles or play claw. Now, slide hold time, this one is personal preference. Some people like it all the way low, some people like it all the way high. I keep mine at 0.080. Reset camera axis, this one's for the gyro settings, so we're not going to go over that. Now, moving on to vibration, please keep this off. This messes with your aim even if you don't think it does. And people have also said it gives you a weird input delay, which I don't know if that's true or not. For me, I personally feel like it does. But whatever you do, just turn this off. It doesn't help you at all. Now, moving on to sensitivity. So if you are on a non-advanced settings and your settings look like this, you're going to want to turn on advanced settings. Now, most experienced and pro players keep their edit and build mode sensitivity pretty close to each other. Just like me, I keep mine both at 1.9 or 2.0. If I change one, I change the other. Keep those consistent. It'll help you a lot when it comes to muscle memory. Now, I don't recommend you going anywhere below 1.6 and probably don't go anywhere above 1.4. I would keep it right in the sweet spot around 1.8 to 2.0. Those are what I recommend. I highly suggest you play around with them yourself because everybody is different, and depending on what look horizontal and look vertical speed you have, it will change your build and edit mode sensitivities. So my horizontal and vertical speeds are about 40-40. I do recommend you play around with those a little bit, and if you play on a lower sense or a higher sense, adjust those accordingly. I have been playing this game for 4 years, probably 4.5 now, and the best settings I've ever used are right in front of you. Now let's talk about boosts. Now what boost does is it makes your sensitivity slower when you turn your joystick. So if I am turning my joystick just like this a little bit right now, it stays consistent, right? So it's one consecutive line. There's no boost up and boost down. Now if I turn my boost all the way up to 20, if I try to put my joystick in the same spot, it's a little bit slower. So what it does is it slowly increases your speed the more you move your joystick to the left and right. But with all that being said, it does come with inconsistent aim. So I don't use it. I don't like it. And The same thing with boost ramp time. You can mess with the boost ramp time. I keep mine at a strict linear curve. I don't like messing around with the boost at all. I recommend you keep those off. Now, instant boost while building, this doesn't affect you if you have your boosts off, so keep it off or on, whatever you want. Now, ADS look horizontal and look vertical. So this is your aim down sight speed. So when you're going for AR shots, this will change the sensitivity of that. Now, like I said, it is personal preference, but I recommend you stay anywhere from about 8% to about 15 or 16%. Don't go any lower or higher than that. This also does depend on what horizontal and vertical sense you're on. So go into an aim map and keep it about 10-10 and mess around with it up and down accordingly if you need to. Now, turning boost ramp time, like I said about instant boost while building, this shouldn't affect your sense if you don't have any boosts on, but for whatever reason it does. Now, if you think it doesn't, or you're saying it's just a placebo effect, or I'm lying about it, whatever, try it for yourself. Try turning this up to about 0.09 or 0.10 and see if it actually changes it a little bit. What this does is it makes it a lot easier to hit those long range AR shots. So I keep this on about 0.09. I recommend it, but if you don't like it, just keep it off and just make sure you try this one for yourself. Now, look dampening time, this is kind of similar to what boosts are. It affects the rotation speed, so the more you move your joystick, faster your stick will move. I just recommend keeping it off. Just like boosts, it does come with inconsistencies, so just go ahead and keep it at 0, but you can mess with it if you want. Now, look input curve, this is a big one. If you want to be able to build fast and want good mechanics, I recommend that you stay on linear just because it's a lot easier than exponential, especially when it comes to building. Exponential does come with a little bit better of an aim assist, and it is a little bit easier to aim sometimes. And if you're still on exponential and you're already used to it and you're still pretty good at building and you still feel pretty comfortable with it, just go ahead and stay on whatever you're on. Linear just for me feels way better than exponential, and lots of other players, most pro players play on linear anyways. So I do recommend switching to linear if you're on exponential, but if you're already on exponential and you're comfortable with it, just stay on it. Now, to copy settings, both of these are pretty irrelevant because we already mess with those, so you don't have to worry about those. Now let's talk about dead zone. So this is a brand new Xbox One controller, and if I put my stick in the right position, it does have a little bit of controller drift. Now, while you're in game, that doesn't affect it much, especially if you're on linear and you're constantly looking around everywhere. I keep mine anywhere from 8% to about 12 to 13%, somewhere around there. A higher dead zone does come with a little bit more accurate shots for long range, and it does come with better crosshair placement when it comes to building and editing. I recommend anywhere from 8 to 12%. That's a pretty solid spot to be. And enable foot controller. So what this is, if you have a foot controller and you want to use it for your game, you can turn it on. I highly recommend you keep it off if you don't have one. It does give you input delay. Some people say it doesn't, but it does. I promise you. Make sure you turn this off if you don't actually use a foot controller. Now, the tank settings, this is new to this season. This one I have on. Everybody's is default on. Just go ahead and keep it that way. Now moving into the volume settings. So these are my volume settings. Now my main overall volume is 35% for the game, but if I want to focus up and actually get some dubs and really lock in, I turn this up to about 50, somewhere around there. My music, I keep this all the way down because I play my own music whenever I play. This is the volume of just sound effects. So like your pickaxe and your shotgun and your AR, all that stuff. That's what that is. Dialogue, I have that 0. Voice chat, I have it about 50%, but you can change that right here if you want to change it while you're in game instead of going all the way into the settings all the way down here. So now sound quality, if you turn this down on low, this does give you a little bit of an FPS boost. If you have a decent PC, keep it on high. 3D headphones, definitely keep these off if you don't have 3D headphones. Now background audio, whenever your game is minimized, this will turn off the audio for the game. So I have this off just in case if I'm watching a little video or talking to somebody. Now subtitles. Subtitles actually give you input delay. It's really weird. I don't know why, but they do. Make sure you have everything to the left or off, just like I have here. Now visualize sound effects, I actually recommend having these on, but I keep them off just because it does clutter up the screen a little bit. You can try these, go ahead into a game, turn them off and then turn them on, see which one you like better. I have really good headphones and I don't really need them, so I usually keep those off. Now voice chat, this does depend on your PC, so just set your settings accordingly with your PC. And these two as well, you can turn them off or on depending on whatever you like. And now we're going to talk about controller binds. So I use 4 paddles on the back of my controller, and I will toss up a screen right now of what my 4 paddles do so you can match them what my in-game settings are. So if you want my exact paddle binds, this is exactly what I use. If you have 2 paddles, I recommend the top right paddle being your edit button and the top left paddle being your jump. You need at least your edit and your jump in your build mode, all without having to take your thumb off the stick. So down left stick for your build mode and top right edit, top left jump. That's what I recommend. If you have no paddles, just like I have on this controller doesn't have any paddles. I don't play claw whenever I use this controller. I use non-paddle, non-claw. My binds are down left stick as my edit, right stick as my jump, and square is my build mode. Where I have seen a few people come up top and press the build mode just like here on their touchpad, because that does work. Now, if you're really determined not to buy paddles and stay non-claw. I have seen some people put build mode on their left trigger so they can press their left trigger for the build mode. And they'll swap this bind right here, their previous weapon bind, onto circle or B. If you want to learn that, you can. And now moving on to the claw players. If you want to learn claw and you actually want to play claw and you're determined to learn it, I honestly recommend you go and copy Faceway's settings. He plays claw and he is one of the best players in the world. He is super good on his settings. I don't want to give you any wrong recommendations when it comes to playing claw because I never have and I probably never will. So that's going to be the best bet for you. So now moving on to build controls. These are pretty much personal preference and you can copy these if you want to see them. Now, edit controls. So this does depend on what binds that you're using for your edit bind. So if you're using down left stick, I still recommend you use my confirm bind. It's my top left bumper and I use my top right bumper for reset. Using your bumpers are instant clicks rather than your triggers. Even if you have trigger stops, your bumpers are still faster. So resetting and confirming with your bumpers are the fastest edit binds that I've ever found. Now I do use this paddle on the back of my controller to edit, but if you do use down left stick or any other bind, bumpers definitely should be a part of your editing binds, just like how I have mine here. Now ability controls, I've never messed with this. All of this can pretty much stay the same. This is just the old dead zone mode. So if you want to change your dead zone, just come all the way down here, just like how we did before, and change it right here. Yo, listen, if you watched to this part of the video, go down in the comments and comment controller player, just like this. I want to see who actually watches my full videos and who the real ones are. And if you found this video useful or you learned something, hit that like and that subscribe button. I would seriously appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely enjoy the one on screen right here. So go ahead and click it and I'll see you in there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.